The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
All right, it's Friday, the 7th day of October, 2022. Welcome to the Daily Hour, brought to you by Medical Wells, One Communications, and Lindos. I'm Jamal Hartman, she's Sancha Durham, and Maya Palacio will be with us in a very short bit to bring you the latest in her news break, brought to you by People's Pharmacy. Sister Sancha, how you doing today?
Good morning. I'm good. I feel refreshed. I've been home with the sick little one for 2 days, and
early days in the school year. Got those sick days out the way now, my brother.
Yes, but sometimes they're needed for us too. I got a lot. I got a lot done.
Yeah, I'm not gonna disagree. I remember last year this time calling my mom out. I said, I just remember, Mama, you say you're sick. All right, so get ready for school. Like, they remember, our parents still sent us to school if we were sick.
I used to love my mama's sick days because I would take like a mental health day every so often. And I remember catching the bus him walking up the hill, and you could smell the food coming out of the house, and she baked dessert. And I was like, oh, I hope my mom is having a sick
day. Hey, well, hopefully his mama's sick days are as fun and good for him. But greetings, everyone, and thanks for making us part of your daily routine. A very good one this morning as we welcome former finance minister and current challenger for leadership of the Bermuda Progressive Labour Party, the Honorable Curtis Dickinson, on the show. The Daily Play, we're going to do the feud today, so should be very interesting. But before we get into a little something, I'm going to bring Maya in because, I've been doing this the last couple of days.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah.
I have watched this joke of the day.
That's
and
right.
I sit there like,
I'm got a good one for you today because I haven't found one. So, here we go. I found one. All right. Good morning, Maya.
Good morning.
Day 3.
All right, folks. This is your morning pick-me-up because I know you're all tired. You're saying, let that funny Jamal make my morning. All right. You ready for my joke? Oh, they're not ready. Okay, here we go. All right, here we go. What do you call a cow that fell in a hole?
Cow that fell in a hole.
A mover? I don't know.
Holy cow!
A what?
A holy cow.
Stop it. Thank you.
The cow's not holy. Take me out, please. Take me out.
All right, we'll be back to Maya in a few.
Well, you said you've been going to comedy shows recently, right?
Yeah. What? My delivery's not working out?
Jamal, you were going to get booed like T.I. What?
I mean, Rashida got it, and Michaela Smith got it, and I don't. Shara's hating, but anyway. Real quick announcement before we bring Maya back in for the news, and thank you all for my thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I'm gonna, I'm no King Sumner. I'm no Mr. Photogenic, but I'm gonna ask if I can beat our protege and open up for him sometime. So support me in my moves, folks. Real quickly, we do have a big announcement this morning. So thank you so much to Casey Truck. Good morning. This is our first donation to the Daily Hour. This is our first donation, and we thank you for that. As of today, you can donate to us on the on our YouTube channel. You can submit a super chat if you're so gracious. This honestly just goes to the hard work that people like Sancha, Sherry, Larry, Phil, and Maya put in. And trust me, they put in the work. especially when I'm trying to sleep. Sancha sends late emails. Maya sends emails when most people are sleeping. Like, they do a lot of work. So if you are so gracious enough to want to support the work that we're all doing, this is the first day you can do that on YouTube via Super Chat. So we appreciate you all for the support. That said, let's bring in Maya, see what she's got for the news break, as we plan on bringing in Mr. Dickinson early so that you can engage with Mr. Dickinson. Also, you want to switch over to YouTube if you haven't already, and we'll put the YouTube link in there. It is YouTube link is there, so we will be live. The only way you'll be able to engage live with Mr. Dickinson is on our YouTube channel. All right, let's bring Maya in for the Daily Hour news break.
Good morning, everyone. This is the Daily Hour news break brought to you by People's Pharmacy.
All right, Maya. All right, no crazy questions this morning. But we want to know, what do you have in the news for us today?
Well, I'm keeping it short and sweet on this Friday. Make sure everyone can have this awesome conversation. So here's what's on the news docket for today. Thursday, October 13th is World Sight Day. And this is a day to recognize, a day to raise public awareness about blindness and vision loss. Visions Bermuda, a registered charity representing the blind and vision impaired persons of Bermuda, is holding a range of events to highlight the issues facing people affected by vision loss. It's going to be like a 3-day event. It's going to be the hashtag Love Your Eyes. And it includes education, awareness, media platforms, and sharing those type of things on those platforms, and tag days as well to help support the charity, and then a roundup day as well.
Okay. Thank you for that. And it's one of those things, you don't know what you got until you don't have it. So see how we can support that. What else you got for us?
Well, next up, I know there's going to be a lot of numbers, so I'll try to take this one kind of slow. But Premier David Burt reported that the budget deficit estimate for the previous fiscal year is now projected to be $81 million compared to the $125 million deficit originally estimated in the 2021-22 budget statement. He says this $44 million improvement is largely to do with the $74 million increase in revenue, a $17 million decrease in capital account expenditures, offsets by a $42 million increase in current account expenditures, and a $3.5 million increase in expenses related to the Morgan's Point project.
That's not for you, Maya. Sorry. Next.
Next up on the list, if you're looking for something fun to do this weekend, then it's going to be the first ever Swizzle Festival here in Bermuda on Sunday, October the 9th from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. at Bars Park. Everything is going to be basically Swizzle infused. But I must say, if you are going to go, please have a designated driver or, a lot for a taxi schedule for the event afterwards.
Let's just give the BTA one of theirs. All right. Let's give them that. All right. How's the weather looking? What are we looking at for the weather?
Looking like bright and sunny today, which is really awesome. And we have a high near 82 degrees Fahrenheit. So happy Friday.
All right. Thank you so much, Maya.
Friday,
And
Maya.
You got a days of the year for us, Sancha? What day of the year is it?
I do have a day of the year for us. Today is Team Margot Stell STEM and Bone Marrow Awareness Day. So using adult stem cells drawn from bone marrow and umbilical cord I'm tripping up this morning. Using adult stem drawn from bone marrow and umbilical cord blood system cells, scientists have discovered new treatments for scores and diseases and conditions such as Parkinson's disease, juvenile diabetes, and spinal cord injuries. So on this day, we celebrate all of their research.
Indeed. Yes. Thank you for that. Someone did ask how they can make a donation. Rashida Godwin and Casey Trott says in the chat line, you see a little trophy image. Click on that to get the super chat feature. So I don't know. I don't know. All right, folks. If the YouTube chat channel is on mute, that means that you have to unmute it. Yeah, you would have to unmute it. We can unmute your YouTube channel. All right, folks, before we let Maya go, we're going to play a little clip before we go to commercial break and then return with the Honorable Curtis Dickinson. And just to give you an idea, I will be going in more depth about this clip on Jamel Hartman Unfiltered this Sunday. So totally separate channel, but I'm going to share this clip with you real quickly, and then we'll go to commercial break. All right? Those who know.
Mr. Wade, we've seen here in Bermuda in the last 2 weeks or so a number of civil disturbances. What's the reason behind them and how have they been handled?
Well, the disturbances we've seen here resulted from the frustrations brought on by the colonialism. And we've seen young people who feel frustrated and trapped in the society reacting. The reaction from the government has largely been one of police action, police with in riot gear, tear gas, go in and arrest everybody on sight and take the people away and put them into prisons. This has been the reaction by government. This is not the first disturbance we've had. We had one in 1968, and we saw the same kind of action. It was commissioned in 1968 to look into what caused the disturbances, and the recommendations were made by this commission, and yet we have not seen any results from government, any action from government in attempts to rectify some of the ills in the community. And we expect that this will go on in this country because we are a colony, and if you know the history of other colonies, this is a normal type of traditional way the colonies are gotten rid of. You have reaction from the people against the establishment and the colonial metropolitan masters.
I understand you yourself were arrested during the disturbances.
Well, I don't want to discuss the arrest. It's still sub judice, and it will be coming up in the Supreme Court sometime this month.
Okay, thank you very much.
All righty. So we will be speaking. I'll be speaking more about that. Have you either of you seen that clip before?
No, I haven't. But it's funny. I went to sleep last night with him on my mind, and for you to play that this morning, it's like we're aligned,
folks. You know, your Uncle Charlemagne the God says often, you know, he does a lot of his own research, and by research he means Google. He means Google. Information is so easily accessible for us. And the reason I bring that video into today's conversation is because there are people who try to discredit others because they may be new to certain organizations or parties or whatever. But then there are people who've been around for ages and still don't represent what the Al Frederick Wades represented. And if you listen to what he was doing, although he was opposition, he was speaking about the government of the day. That government has now become the problem of the people. Same situation, same system. So when we talk about governance, we have to understand that there was a time that the current party would not have stood and accepted the things that we see happening today by the government. And the people who this party was built by and for, man, that's the kind of people that we're representing Bermuda. Those are the kind of people that were fighting for Bermudians. Yes, splash from the past indeed. Maya, I will see you soon. Have
a great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is awesome. Shonda Shields, thank you so much for the $100 donation this morning. We definitely appreciate it. You all wonderful. We appreciate you. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with the challenger for the leadership of Bermuda and former finance minister, Mr. Curtis Dickinson. Stick with us. Do not go anywhere.
Let's face it, life can be a little wild, but shopping doesn't have to be. I choose Peoples, so that whether it's a prescription that needs to be filled, a toy for my little terror, or a gift for a new addition to the family, we'll see about that. Everything's available in one convenient location. Some call it Peoples, I call it my one-stop shop in the city. Peoples, we're here for you.
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
Mom's celebrating her 70th birthday next month. Have you noticed her age is catching up with her?
Yeah. Plus, she's having a hard time getting up and around like she's used to. I would sure hate to see her fall.
At Medical House Limited, we can help make life situations easier. We have electric beds, motorized scooters, bath stools, walkers, you name it.
Mom's been real good to us. We'll get her birthday and Christmas gifts from Medical House.
Medical House has relocated next to the Dandytown Field, number 6 Bakery Lane, Pembroke. Telephone 292-3622.
All righty, welcome back to the big show, Sancha Durham. I'm Jamel Hartman. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by Medical House, One Communications, Lindo's, and People's Pharmacy. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed on our website, thedailyhour.com, so you don't miss a chance for updates, promotions, prizes, and more. Also, if you're on the go and you can't watch us, you can actually still listen to us. Just download the BCG Radio app, available for Android and Apple devices. And I know some of you are asking, but I will share the link right now where you can see me discussing the state of Bermuda's politics. It's unfiltered, so the language is a bit different on that show. So I say that because I know some of you are very sensitive with certain language, but this is, yeah, I mean, some say that, but I just, the link for, sorry, that's the Daily Hour link that was just put in there. Let me just grab the link for you folks for the Jamel Hartman Unfiltered this weekend. Yeah, I just put it in. All right, without further ado, let's bring our guest for today. Are we ready for Mr. Curtis Dickinson, the Honorable Curtis Dickinson, former finance minister, challenger for premiership? We also did go off of Facebook, so you can tell your friends over on Facebook that they can switch over to YouTube if they'd like to engage live. But without further ado, let's bring in our guest. And we haven't done a crowd cheer in a while. Let's bring in the Honorable Curtis Dickinson. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Jamel. Good morning, Sancha. How are you?
Winning. We've been looking forward
Thanks for having me this morning.
No, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. And before we jump in to the conversation, I think one of the things that people look at when it comes to anyone in politics is, well, the question they ask is, who is this person? What are they about? And from what I've read about you, your mother was involved with the PLP. Some people just say, well, this guy just showed up. But tell us a bit about you, your family. I mean, you know, we want to know who Curtis Dickinson is.
Well, you know, the comment about this guy just showing up is somewhat funny, because I'm talking to our kids, you know, and trying to kind of share with them the benefit of our lived experience. They often think that we kind of came out of the womb this size and that we haven't had any life before this. And so for me, you know, I'm a guy from Cooks Hill Road in Somerset. My mother and my mom's family lived on Cooks Hill for forever. My aunt still lives there, by the way. And I attended school at Miss Tankett's nursery, and then went on to West End Primary. My mom then moved out of Somerset, but was a diehard West End fan. And so I took the bus to school, I think from 8 years old, from the bus stop over there by HSBC on Church Street. My mom became very ill at some point during my early years, and she was hospitalized. And I went to live with a family friend up in Somerset and spent a year living with them while my mom recuperated. And then I finished West End and moved on to the Barclay Institute. I finished Barclay back in the early 80s. Did very well there, was deputy head boy, the captain of Greenhouse. And while at Barclay, Christine Phillips was the guidance counselor, and she introduced my mother and I to a school called Morehouse College. And we were really impressed, mostly with the fact that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King had been an alumnus of Morehouse. And I applied and was accepted, and moved to Atlanta after finishing Morehouse. And did my time there, started out as a computer science major. And then in my junior year, decided that I didn't want to do that and changed to finance, and really rallied in the business and the finance courses. From there, I took a job in New York with a company called The Equitable. And my introduction to The Equitable was somewhat interesting. I was walking to the bus stop because I was living off campus. And one of my aunt's neighbors, who I was living with, my aunt, one of her neighbors offered me a ride from his home to the bus stop. And he ended up taking me all the way to school. And being a Morehouse man, or a man of Morehouse at that point, because I hadn't quite graduated, I asked that question: is there anything at The Equitable that someone like me could do? As it turned out, the CEO of Equitable was on the board of trustees Morehouse, and they were looking to get some Morehouse students in their management training program. And so I did a series of interviews, flew to New York, interviewed even more, and was ultimately offered a job to come and join the management training program. It took Equitable about a year to figure out how to get me from Bermuda to New York. And so in the intervening year, I took some time off, having just graduated from college. My girlfriend, who's now my wife, was away in school. So to stay out of trouble, I took a job at the Southampton Princess, where I was a houseman. I did day shifts and night shifts to make money and stay busy. And in May of 1988, I moved to New York and started as a trainee at the Equitable. I rotated around the company for about 2 years, took a final placement working with one of the men who I had worked with, and he ended up being very influential in my life. He was a guy named Tom Mann. And I told Tom that I wanted to go back to graduate school. So Tom created a pilot program for management trainees to go back to business schools. Whatever school the student picked, Equitable would pay for it, and the student would be required to return to Equitable post graduation to work for the company for a predetermined period of time. The pilot program had one person in it. It was me. I then went to school at Columbia Business School. And for the summer, I worked at one of Equitable's subsidiaries, an investment bank called Donaldson, Lufkin and Jenrette. I spent about 8 to 10 years as an investment banker at DLJ, living in New York and working out of New York. And then they sent my wife and I to London for a stint. And then we came back to New York. The firm was ultimately sold in 2000. And then I moved to Charlotte in 2004 to work for another company called Wells Fargo. And then in 2006, in early 2006, we lost my grandmother. And my mother became ill again in 2006. And so we decided at the time to move back to Bermuda with our boys. We had 2 sons. And we wanted our children to grow up around our family. While we were frequent visitors to Bermuda while we were living overseas, it's a very different experience for your children when they get an opportunity to live with their families. And so we came back, we had a 3rd child. And I think coming back was one of the best decisions we made, because we lost my mother 9 years ago. We lost my wife's aunt 10 years ago, and we lost my wife's grandmother 11 years ago. And so in the intervening time, our children got to know their grandparents. And for that, we're eternally grateful.
Hearing this story really, really takes us right into the first question I have. With such a successful career and family, a great family, why did you choose to get involved in politics?
Well, Jamel, I've thought about this for a bit, and back in probably the 80s or 90s, when I had my life plan in my head, the idea was that I would work really hard, save, and then I would retire at a fairly young age. And I would move back to Bermuda, and I would get an office, and I would go and play golf, and I would teach. And that was my way of kind of giving back for the success that I had in my life. And the reason for an office was because I have 3 children, 2 of whom are Black boys. And I think it's very important for not just Black boys, but Black children to see their fathers going to work. And so the office was going to be kind of an attempt for me to show that I was going to work. Well, in effect, I was going to play golf. That was the idea. Fast forward a couple of decades, I had worked at Butterfield Bank, and when I was recruited by Butterfield Bank in 2006, it was with the express purpose of coming back to be groomed by the then CEO to one day take over running the bank. As many folks know, in 2008, Butterfield stubbed its toe by investing in some very unattractive securities that kind of went sideways. In 2010, the bank needed to be recapitalized, and there was a very, very substantial change in the senior management team. And my prospects for that plan that we had put in place for me to be groomed to one day lead the bank, it changed. I stayed at the bank, and I worked in various other parts of it. I ran the treasury function. I ultimately ended up running the group private banking business. But when I was approached to consider running in politics, my initial answers, because I was asked more than once, was an emphatic no. Because I would rather be kind of behind the scenes, was my thinking at the time. And quite candidly, as a family, we weren't ready for frontline politics. But later in 2017, my wife, who I believe for us has to be fully on board with what it is I'm doing professionally, she decided that she was open to the concept or the idea of being involved in politics. And so I thought, I'm looking for a new challenge. I have a wealth of kind of experience and a skill set that could be useful to the country. Why not have this be a way of giving of yourself, being of service? And so I raised my hand and I talked to the premier at the time and said, I'm ready. I can do this. Now, one of the things that I tried to do was try to figure out, could I do this by way of an appointment to the Senate? And our Constitution is very clear. Two people have to be elected. One of them is the premier, and the other one is the Minister of Finance. And so the opportunity or the idea of being appointed to be Minister of Finance went out the window. And when an opportunity became available in April of 2018, when there were some resignations from the OBA, I was put forth as a candidate in the by-election for a constituency in Warwick, C25. I campaigned and I won. And the rest is history.
All right.
So one of the big questions that I'm sure everyone has, why did you resign as the finance minister earlier this year?
Well, Sancha, I spoke to this extensively. I think it was on March the 25th when I gave an explanatory statement in the House of Assembly. And I'll say this, as a member of cabinet, you have to be comfortable that you can share your views in the room with your colleagues and not be concerned that those views will extend beyond that room. And there's a confidentiality requirement, but there's also a piece of legislation, the law. So I can't go into a whole lot of detail other than to say what I've said before. Our system of government, which is based on the Westminster system, requires that if a member of the cabinet cannot agree and support government policy, that person should resign. I'm a person of deep principles. My mother and my father raised me right, and they instilled in me values of kind of honoring those principles. I had a deal with my wife before getting into politics that I would not compromise my personal principles in the pursuit of my political ambition. And so when I had a disagreement on a policy matter, I chose to tender my resignation. Now, it's no secret, as I mentioned on my March 25th statement, that the issues revolved around how the government was approaching the Southampton Princess opportunity. That was the position then. It's my position now. I know the government continues to do its work on South Princess, and I wish them well. But it was a point of principle, and that I was not prepared to compromise.
Indeed. Okay, so after your resignation earlier this year, you've now decided to run for leadership of the party and in turn Bermuda. Why?
I can tell you that initially I had no interest at all in anything further in politics other than to remain in constituency C21, where I'm currently the member of parliament, and just do the work required as a sitting MP. But I took some time for myself and for my family. And over the course of the last 6-7 months, I've been reflecting on what's next for me personally and professionally. And in taking the time for myself, came to the view that there were things that I would still like to contribute to. And I'd like to do that in a more substantial leadership capacity. And so, after talking with my wife and our children, and expressing my interest in running for the leadership, I got their support. I did some more reflection, And interestingly enough, earlier this summer in August, I took our younger son to Morehouse College for his freshman orientation week. And I had experienced Morehouse freshman orientation 40 years ago. And I was now experiencing it as an alumnus and as a parent with the benefit of lived experience. And I was blown away by the entire experience in terms of the efforts to create brotherhood and to instill in these young men a sense of purpose and a bit of a can-do attitude. And the president of Morehouse, Dr. David Thomas, gave a speech, and one of the lines I'll never forget in his remarks were that you never really know when your moment is going to come, but you need to take advantage of the moments. And it was those remarks that were probably the tipping point for me, because I've been flirting with the idea in my head. But my final decision was probably made in Atlanta during the course of freshman orientation with my son. Morehouse has a rich tradition of producing men of distinction, men of leadership, and I felt an obligation to kind of honor that call.
So the public response to your leadership aspirations has been overwhelmingly positive. What has the response been like within the party, especially the delegates who you at this point have to win over?
I can tell you that the public response has been overwhelming, and it's made me feel very good about the work that I did as Minister of Finance. The process of engaging the delegates is ongoing. I have been out over the course of the last week and a half, meeting with delegates from around the island. The engagements have been very, very good. I feel very good that once people get a chance to sit and talk with me and to hear my story and to hear my ideas, that they are open to considering me as a viable candidate for leadership. So those meetings will continue over the course of the next week, but I'm encouraged by what I've been seeing and hearing thus far.
So I'm pretty sure the number one question, you being the former finance minister, is how do you plan to address Bermuda's economic woes at this point?
Well, Sandra, I've had 3 decades of experience leading in the financial services industry. I've been an investment banker, which is essentially an expert at solving problems around how to facilitate companies getting capital to kind of pursue their business operations, their business expansion goals, how to run their businesses. I've led businesses here in Bermuda at the Bank of Butterfield. I've led efforts at the investment banks that I work for. I intend to bring my experience to bear, my experience in leading, my experience in finance, my experience in bringing people together to work towards a common goal. One of the fallacies about what a leader is that the leader knows all the answers. In fact, an excellent leader is someone who is able to bring people together with various skill sets and work together to find answers to complex problems. What I intend to do is use my experience and in finance and problem solving, coupled with assembling a team of people who can help me to chart a course forward for Bermuda that actually is something that we can all be proud of.
Can I just jump in there? Because I was having this conversation recently with someone about leadership, and I'm just going to be frank. They said, well, the current premier, he's a leader, he does this, he does that. I don't know about Mr. Dickinson. And I said, folks, leadership is not necessarily the work you do. It's who you surround yourself with to do the work with. And it's maybe it's because I read, I don't know, but I just think the idea we have of what leadership is a bit.
Yeah.
muddy.
And that was spot on.
Yeah.
Spot on, because anyone that is a leader that feels as if it's my way, no way, it's difficult. Like you cannot get positive results. And I think that is one of the reasons, or the public is feeling that we need someone, a group of people, not just one specific person, to take us in a direction to heal and recover. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure.
Outside of
Leading, sorry, Sancho, leading is about, I often make the comment that God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And as a leader, we have to listen more than we talk. It's about inspiring people to do their best. And if you are in a place where you know all the answers yourself, then you can't get the best from the people who are working with you.
My father tells me that all the time. It's like, Sancha, every time I go into a room and a meeting, he says, you need to listen. Do not talk, listen. So those are wise words. Outside of the economy, what do you believe are Bermuda's biggest areas of concerns, and what are your solutions to fixing them?
Well, Sancho, I think, the economy, I view the economy as the foundation for addressing a number of issues. The economy is the thing by which the government is able to generate revenue. And government revenues are used to fund all kinds of essential services, whether they be kind of roads, fire, police, schools, and probably most importantly, it enables the government the ability to help people who cannot help themselves. And so the economy is really important because it is the means by which we go about getting the money to be able to fund the things that are needed to provide assistance to people who need help. I think in terms of pressing issues, we need health reform because health care costs are through the roof. We aren't the only country in the world experiencing that. There's some wonderful work going on in the education space around education reform. And the education reform is important because it helps to lead to a stronger economy. If we have really talented resources who are capable of filling these really, really high-paying jobs, that benefit accrues to the economy, but also to the government and to the broader society. We have some work to do on our debt situation because being indebted certainly limits the ability of government to be able to be as helpful as it can be. We've got challenges around housing, and those need to be addressed. But I would put a lot of these things into one category, calling kind of social issues. And the economy is one thing. It certainly needs a lot of attention. But my hope is that the work that we do in the economy can give us the resourcing that we require to address some of the other issues that are of major concern to not just delegates, but also all of the people who live in Bermuda.
So there is a group of people that feel that politicians should be kissing babies and at every Connie game and at concerts and all that sort of stuff. What would you say to those people who feel that you aren't the everyday politician?
Well, I'm not sure if that's a compliment or a criticism. I choose to take it as a compliment. Listen, I am a private person. I'm a public person who's private, and I am still trying to find the right balance. I'm not a hermit. I've been married for 31 years to a wonderful lady. We've been a couple since high school for 40 years. We enjoy each other's company. Up until August of this year, we had 3 young people living in our home, our 3 kids. They're 20, 18, and 14. They're now all out and overseas in school. And so I think people probably see me out now more than they did before. That's not a function of me and my political aspirations. That's a function of the kids aren't home anymore. And so we have more time to kind of go out and be out and about. I don't think there's anything wrong with going to county games and kissing babies. I think what people want to feel is a sense of connectedness with the people who are leading their country. And I don't have a problem with that. But I do not mind being referred to as the apolitical, unpolitical politician. I just love doing the work, and the politics is part of it. But politics really is about trying to work together to solve people's problems, and I think that there's certainly more than one way to do it effectively.
So, with that being said, what makes you the ideal candidate, and how do you differ from your opponent?
Well, I've made a very concerted effort not to make this a David versus Curtis contest. This is about ideas. This is about Bermuda. And I look at where the country is today, and I take the view that we need to do better and we need to move the country forward. And I think that with a combination of my skills, my experience, and my ability to bring people together, that I can do the job successfully.
I just got a comment, and I'll share it with you. Is listening to Mr. Dickinson gives me hope, and it's like a breath of fresh air. I just want to share that with you. But go ahead, Sandra.
So, if your leadership challenge is successful, how do you feel that you would work moving forward with the current premier?
Sanjay, I think what's important is that this contest not be turned into a battle of personalities. It needs to be about the articulation of how you intend to take the country forward. The Premier and I have differences of opinion. Those differences of opinion do not need to lead to division. And in as much as I'm successful and he would like to be part of the effort to continue the work to move Bermuda forward, I'm willing to work with him, as I'm sure he'll be willing to work with me. But what we can't afford to do is to marginalize people who actually want to help our country move forward because we've had a difference of opinion. I think, the Premier has people who support him. I have people who support me. And my hope is that when this is all over, we can come together and move forward for the benefit of the country.
All right. We have a lot of questions coming through, and I just want to let people know this is the first day that we are doing super chats. So people who have super chats who make a donation, whatever that is, those are the comments that appear on our side first and are highlighted. So I just want to let you know, if we don't get to your questions, that's why. It's the super chat controls what we see now. So if you want to make a slight donation to us and make sure your questions get asked, feel free. We're not going to say no. That said, Mr. Dickinson, if you're unsuccessful, what are your next steps? Because there's been a lot of talk. We had the honorable former PLP leader the other day, Mr. Mark Bean, who said, if you're unsuccessful, if David Byrd is still premier, the PLP will lose at the next election, which is interesting because if you look at the numbers, which all of us should be doing, again, I just shared a clip before you came on, information is so accessible. And so if you look at numbers, 30-6 doesn't mean the PLP can't lose 30-6 next time. Reason because we don't know the numbers of people who left Bermuda. And then if you look at the amount of votes the PLP got in 2017 versus 2020, there's a 5,000, I believe, 5,000 person drop. So it's interesting that 30-6 is not really a reflection of what can happen in the next election. It's just not with the way that constituencies work. All you need is about 1,000 people not to show up in some key constituencies, and that bird can be flipped just like that. But that said, if you're unsuccessful, what are your next steps? I mean, people have said a lot of things. It's a party split, resignations. Well, give us something.
Jamel, I made a commitment to the people of C21 when I asked for their support in the 2020 election to be their representative. And I represent everybody in the constituency, whether they voted for me or not. And I've taken, my commitments very seriously. And so I would intend to fulfill my obligations as a member of parliament. I'm still a relatively young man. I'm not starved for opportunities kind of back in the professional world. I would start considering going back to the world from which I came. And so this for me is an opportunity to continue to be of service in a more substantial way. But if the delegates decide otherwise, I will continue to act as an MP and go back to the corporate world where I worked before.
Gotcha.
So my next question is, if you could give David Burt one piece of advice, if he were to retain the leadership, what would that be?
I think the advice that I would give to the premier, if he were successful, would be not dissimilar to the advice that I would give anyone who is leading through challenging times. And that is that you have to listen, and you have to realize and acknowledge that you alone cannot solve all the problems on your own. It's about building capacity. It's about building a team, because that's how you can be your most effective. People want Bermuda to be successful. I think everyone here wants Bermuda to be successful. And as its leader, I think some of that sentiment certainly extends to the leader. And so I think people would want the premier to be successful. And so I think you need to capture that reservoir of goodwill, listen to the people, and allow your team to do their work so that they can actually help.
Indeed. What I'm getting, a lot of messages coming through, is he keeps referring to Bermuda, not the party. And I think that's what Bermudians are looking for. They're looking for leadership that wants what's best for Bermuda overall. And obviously, if you do what's best for Bermuda, it will be likely, obviously, in the best interest of the party. So I think that's where the shift and difference is, it seems, at least from the outside looking in. We have a question. And first off, thank you, Mark Arthur C. Phillips, for the $5 donation. We appreciate you. He's asking a question. Do you have a plan to get more foreign investment in the tourism space?
Well, Mark, thank you for the question. There are currently laws on the books that are designed to encourage inward investment in tourism. The PLP administration, the Burton administration, introduced some legislation, I think it was 2017, that did a rework of the concessions that are available to the hospitality sector to encourage inward investment. Those benefits, those concessions are still available. And I think to some degree, the government has indicated, at least in the case of Southampton Princess, a willingness to be more flexible in this space. And so my sense is that the government needs to provide an enabling environment and to provide some degree of assistance to help developers or investors in hospitality properties to make the business case for themselves. Those things are already on the books, and I think we probably need to do a better job of promoting those initiatives.
Yeah, we've got quite a few comments, but this one's interesting from Traveling Trotty. With the aging population of Bermuda, how do you see immigration playing a part in the solution?
Sure. So, you talked a lot about kind of the need to read and to understand, information. Several weeks ago, the Minister of Labor and Economy issued a position paper on our demographics. And what it observed is that we have an aging population and a zero birth rate. That presents a number of potential challenges, actually not potential, real challenges for the country. Some of our systems, our pension system, and even our healthcare system relies on young people, young, healthy people paying into the system and not utilizing it a whole lot. And their lack of utilization is offset by the increased utilization that you get from people who are getting older. And as we all get older, we become sicker, irrespective of kind of how healthy we've tried to be. Getting older means you're going to get sicker. And so, unfortunately, we cannot, give birth to 25-year-olds. They have to be babies and then toddlers and then infants and then young adults and then adults. And so there's a time frame that happens from increasing the number of Bermudians that are born today, next week, next month, next year. So immigration actually helps us by bringing in able-bodied people who can contribute to the system and help to offset the burden that's being created by the aging demographic.
So go back to the questions. We've got Charles H. Jeffers II. He says, how would you restore the people's faith in government and our leaders if selected as leader?
One of the compliments that I have really taken heart with is, as a finance person, in talking to other finance people, to the uninitiated, it sounds like we're talking a foreign language because we know the industry speak. When I became Minister of Finance, one of the things that I've always tried to do is to make what I do for a living more accessible to the people who I serve. Because I believe that a more informed population is a better population. Mm-hmm. And so I've always tried to be accessible in the content that I put out there, but I'm also known for being brutally honest. Mm-hmm. And my responsibility, I believe, is to tell people where we are, because in my own upbringing and in the people who I grew up around, tell me what I'm dealing with so I can understand what I'm dealing with, and then I can deal with it. And if you give it to people straight, they may not like what you tell them, but they'll appreciate that they have the information with which to make an informed decision. And so candor, I think, more of it is something that I think people find appealing, and they want more of it from their leaders.
All right. We've got Dexter Smith asking, and this is a question that we were told to ask you by numerous people, various directions. We asked the Honorable Mark Bean as well, had he heard about it. Dexter Smith's asking, this MOU, can you put this to bed once and for all, whether or not MPs were encouraged to sign off on one after the 2020 election?
I have no knowledge. I have not signed any MOU. I know that I was asked to sign something that's standard with the PLP, which is a parliamentary pledge, where I donate a portion of my parliamentary salary to the party.
All righty. One more. We've got one more from the audience. Mishka Fubler asking, if your bid for party leadership is successful, what will happen with the Southampton Princess deal?
Well, the Southampton Princess has an act that was put into place earlier this year, which gave the property 15 years of tax relief. I was opposed to that, but it passed the House. It passed the Senate, and I think the governor has signed the bill. So it is law today. So that is where it is. I don't know where things are with respect to the negotiations of the guarantees that will go along with the project, in as much as they have been completed before the leadership contest, then they will have been done, because at that point, the government will have entered into an obligation, a legally binding obligation. If they're not, then we'd have to see what's on the table for consideration. I can tell you this, because I think it's really important, Jamal, to make this very clear. I was not opposed to a deal for Southampton Princess. What I was opposed to were certain aspects of the deal, because I wanted to make sure that the deal was in the best interest of the people of Bermuda. We have some situations, one of them is Morgan's Point, in which, with the benefit of hindsight, I'm sure those persons who entered into those transactions would have seen that there were gaps in the protection for the people of Bermuda. And had they had an opportunity to do a do-over, they would have sought actively to fill those gaps. And so my opposition is not to the notion of governments providing support for inward investment. That makes sense, but you have to quantify what that is and ensure that if things do go sideways, that the government and the people of Bermuda are protected.
All right, you've got to run because you've got work to do, but I want to, it's just a very important question. Janet Maynard's asking, I'm still trying to understand how the delegates are chosen, but I want to also, ask you, what would you say to delegates who may be watching this show to convince them that you're the best person to lead Bermuda forward?
Okay. How are delegates chosen? So there are 36 constituencies in Bermuda. Each constituency has a PLP branch. Some branches are more functioning than others. Each branch has membership. Depending on the number of members, you get a delegate for each 20 members or part of. And so by August 31st, the cutoff date, memberships are determined. And then there's a calculation done to determine how many delegates for each constituency. The branches then meet and they have a discussion and they go about electing among themselves persons to serve as delegates. So that's the delegate selection process. What would I say to delegates? I would say I bring to the table 3 decades of experience, a track record for success. I served as your Minister of Finance for 3 years and 4 months. I think the overall assessment of the work that I did while serving in that role, I was very effective. I represented Bermuda very well. I'd like to use those skills, that experience, and my ability to bring people together to lead this country forward.
All right. Carter Dickinson.
I just have one quick question. I'm sorry. We were talking about Southampton Princess and that whole situation. And I feel that, and Jamal, we talked about this a lot before, the smaller contractors feel as if they don't get a part of the big work. It always goes to the big contractors. How, in your position, how do we ensure that government sees that the smaller contractors are finally getting a part of this and it's not tipped off to the big contractors like this is coming down the pipeline?
Friends and family, basically.
Yes. Well, friends and family always takes on a negative connotation, especially when it's directed at the PLP, and I bristle at that because there is a notion, unfortunately, that Black people are not qualified, and that is a nonsense. I have a Columbia MBA. My brother has a Harvard MBA. Should I not work with my brother because he's my brother, even though he may have a skill set and a set of experiences that may be very valuable to me? And I think friends and family is a pejorative that's thrown around willy-nilly, and for far too often, I think a lot of people are on the back foot about it. If I could find other people who, if people had the skills of my brother, I would have no problem with them with friends and family. But I think it's often used as a way to insult people when, in actual fact, we need to kind of assess the situation on its own merits, because there are people who are skilled, who have a service or product to offer, who may be a friend or family, but who do it in a way that actually makes sense for the end product. And so, in relation to your question directly, Sancha, I would say this: the government is through concessions providing a degree of assistance to, in the case of this one, GenCom, but they also did it in the case of St. Regis and other hoteliers. In return for that assistance, we certainly shouldn't be shy about asking for something that we want in return. And among those things that we want in return is greater participation of local business. We certainly can demand that as part of the things that we give up in terms of tax revenues. We can ask them, we want you to ensure that you undertake to hire this many local contractors, small business people. And I think what you do in those instances are you create a win-win situation, because our country, our economy, in many respects, is driven by small and medium-sized enterprises, and we need to be doing more investment in those businesses because it makes for a much more diverse and thriving economy.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. I know we promised we'd let you go earlier. Folks, he's got to get to work for the people. He has to go to the House of Assembly. But I just want to wish you all the best. I think that when I look at politics and, I look at what is in the best interest of all the people. I know that, politics is always looked at us versus them, but I think we need to honestly get to a place where it's all of us together collectively. So my hope is that I'm not a delegate. I can't vote. At the end of the day, regardless of who wins, I just really want what's in the best interest of Bermuda. I think, all of my family's still in Bermuda. I think Bermuda has an opportunity to bounce back. Bad days don't last forever. And I think the result of this could be a step towards better days for Bermuda. So, Mr. Dickinson, thank you for your time. We appreciate you. Thank you to your staff, those working behind the scenes, making this happen. Please know, regardless of the result, this platform is always going to be available for you should you need us.
Thank you very much, Jamel. Thank you, Sancha.
Thank
Have
you.
a great one. Talk soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All righty. All righty. The Honorable Curtis Dickinson. Folks, if you appreciated that conversation, give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Make sure you hit that notifications bell. Also, we're going to do a big giveaway when we come back. We're going to do a giveaway when we come back. Do not go anywhere. Thank you so much to everyone who's made a donation to us today. This is the first day we've done this, so we appreciate you so much for donating to us. You can do that on YouTube via the super chat. And if you haven't already, I will be addressing the video we showed earlier regarding the late Al Frederick Wade. I'll be discussing that this weekend. Sancha, you ready for some fun?
Let's have it.
All right, let's take a break first. Let me get some water. I haven't drank water all show, folks. Don't go anywhere. We're going to do the giveaway after this.
A lot happens around your home. That is why at One Communications, we have introduced affordable security and video monitoring, because everyone should be able to afford to protect their family. Anytime, from anywhere, One Home Security keeps you connected and puts security in your hands with an easy-to-use smartphone app to control everything. Home security is important to keep you and your family safe. Motion-activated cameras around your home and security monitoring within create a complete security system providing protection both inside and outside your home. Professional monitoring means that there's someone on call with 24/7 protection to notify the authorities and help keep you and your loved ones safe. We are dedicated to whole home protection with indoor and outdoor cameras, smart door locks, motion sensors, and more, so you'll always be connected to what matters most. With professional installation, no upfront hardware fees, and low monthly rates, because keeping your family safe should be affordable for everyone. Total home video monitoring and security, there's no better way to protect your home than with One Home Security.
All right. Thanks again to the Honorable Curtis Dickinson for stopping by. Folks, if you appreciated today's conversation, give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Thanks again to One Communications, Medical House Lenders, People's Pharmacy for supporting us, giving us the opportunity to have these conversations on a daily basis. And I also want to thank people like Sancha who put in the work, Maya put in the work, Sherry, Larry, Phil, the amount of work that we all contribute, even though it's just us on the screen, the roles that they play in the back to make sure that these shows run smoothly. And also, Shanta and Keitha in the back who always ensure that we are able and ready to go. We're going to do the giveaway after this, but it's time for the Daily Play brought to you by Heineken 0.0, great taste, no alcohol, and Bermuda Trivia. Now available at stores throughout Bermuda. Follow Bermuda Trivia on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok to find out why it's Bermuda's favorite trivia game. Sancha, are you ready?
Let's have it.
All right, it's the feud today. Help her out, folks. Help her out. Help her out. Here we go. And giveaway coming up after this. First question, 3 questions. Here we are. Name something magicians try to escape from.
Magicians try to escape from. Box.
There you go. She got that. It was so simple, just like a box. All right. Name a term used in a game of bowling.
Strike.
That's number 1. All right. You're going to see what kind of mother Sancha is with this, folks. Here we go.
Gosh.
Name something parents hope their son has done by the time he's 30.
By the time he's 30, finish. Well, obviously, he'll finish. I feel that they said get married, but I don't feel that. I don't feel that way. That's the answer. I don't feel that way.
I agree with you because I would have failed every last part of prep in this college. But yeah, that's what you got today, folks. The hashtag for today's giveaway is Bermuda Trivia. We're giving away another deck of Bermuda Trivia cards. So put in Bermuda Trivia. Just want to send a shout out to Mama Patterson. Sherry's mom's birthday is today, folks. So we got to give a birthday shout out to Mama Patterson. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Mama Patterson on this Friday, October 7th. Any final thoughts on today's show, Sancha?
Yes, today was very refreshing. I've never had a conversation with Mr. Dickinson, but there were so many jewels to take away. Like there were so many things that he said that resonated with me deep within. And I feel like I'm a leader within my own right, whereas I have my business, within my family. Mm-hmm. There are things that I say to my son, like, I know we've had this conversation before where I was like, it's important to give us the information, whether we're not going to like it, let us form a decision based on, but give us the information. Let's not try to hide it. Let's not try to hide behind it. That was big for me. And if someone can lead within that, yes, I may not like the situation, but if you let me know what we're dealing with, I think it's important. Also, when he was talking about the 2 ears and 1 mouth, that's big, listening before you can actually give an answer or have an opinion or find a solution, to us looking at, we're building a team. It's not about it's about we and our country. There were so many things to take away that I felt almost like just relief, like, "Ugh, this person gets it." And it's so many things that I've been raised with by my parents that I saw within this conversation. So it sits well with me, and I hope that he is successful.
No bias, no bias, no bias.
Yeah,
No,
sorry.
I just want to say this much. I think sometimes it's the majority doesn't necessarily understand what's in our best interest. At other times, democracy says majority should be the ones who decide the fate. That's not the case here. This is coming down to 100 and something people. And there's 100 and something people. My only hope for them, whoever they are, is that they do what is in the best interest of Bermuda. Because if you do what's in the best interest of Bermuda, whether that be remain with Premier David Burt or go with the Honorable Curtis Dickinson, Bermuda benefits, you benefit as well. I don't know what each person will do differently because we've only experienced David Burt, and we know the grass isn't always greener on the other side. However, if we know what we have and we're unhappy with it, only fools would remain with such. So I appreciated so much of what Mr. Dickinson said. I have never met Mr. Dickinson. I had never had a conversation with Mr. Dickinson, but it's something about appearing to be a great leader and actually being a great leader. And when he spoke of what leadership is, a lot of people, and I've spoken to some PLP delegates who really think leadership looks and feels like what David Burt delivers. But leadership, folks, it's really about how you help others come together to achieve or exceed the said goals of any organization you are leading. So my hope is that the idea of leadership is not one that you're used to, that you're voting on, but one that can improve you, that you're considering. All right, time for the daily play. I'm not saying daily play, the giveaway. All right, let's see who we got today, Sandra. Let's see who's going to be the big winner. We're giving away a little something. Here we go. Let's get that drum roll up. Let's get that drum roll up. Who's it going to be? Sherilyn, man, she wins a lot too. My goodness, we love you too, Sherilyn Johnson. Congratulations to you, folks. Again, this is the first day that we can do the super chat. Thank you to those who have made donations to this show. We appreciate you. Everyone a part of the show appreciates you. Sean DeShields, Mark Arthur C. Phillips, Casey Trott. Thank you for your donations, for supporting the work that we do. Anyone else who wants to make a donation and support the work we do, please feel free. We will not say no. Sancha, do you have any daily inspiration before we head out?
I do. We know through painful experience that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. And that is by Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh, I thought it was Malcolm X. Martin went that bad, man. He went hard on that one. Dr. King went hard on that one, folks. Anyway, folks, honestly, thank you so much for your support. If you haven't already, make sure you like or love, just show some love. Share this conversation with your friends on WhatsApp, your family, at the water cooler at work. Please, please, please do not let the work that we do end with this conversation. Continue it. Let it go on. Thanks again to our partners, Medical House, One Communications, Lindos, and People's Pharmacy for ensuring that we're able to do this with you on a daily basis. As always, we appreciate you. We love you, and we thank you for making us part of your daily routine. If all goes well, we'll be back to do this again with you on Monday. She's Sancha Durham. I'm Jamel Hartman. My friends, please do make it a safe and great weekend. We are out. Peace.